Walking the dog this morning, and sometimes when you are in the middle of something, you forget the simple answers that you had to find in the beginning of that thing. So yesterday I had a really good call with a new prospective client. By the way, kudos to this client for being willing to, sound like a novice. So often we're scared of letting it be known that we don't know the answer to something, that we miss out on getting the answer to that. Kudos. This client said, what even is a podcast? And boy, that's a great question. What even is a podcast? Especially in a world where YouTube and now TikTok is dominating. What does it mean to have a podcast? For a long time, I was opposed to these folks that have YouTube channels that would call their regular recordings a podcast. If that's all you did with it, for the longest time I said, well, that's definitely not a podcast. And technically, according to the definition of the thing, it's not. A podcast is based on the RSS spec. RSS is a old sort of technology that was originally created to send out text to people over the internet. Basically, you could post a new blog or a newsletter or something like that. Anyone that followed your RSS feed in their RSS reader would get a notification that you had new content. Well, eventually, a couple of folks got together and they said, hey, we could apply audio to this RSS spec, and we could send audio recordings. We could make those downloadable to people's, computers as soon as we posted them. We could basically make our own radio stations. Along comes the iPod right about that same time, and people realize, oh, we can sync these audio files to the iPods. Apple actually adopted that technology and introduced it as part of iTunes. It was a great play on their part because they wanted to roll the iTunes store out all over the world, and they didn't have music rights in every country in the world. And so what they would do is, if they didn't have any music rights, they could go ahead and roll out the iTunes store because they could do podcasts. So that became their in all over the world to get people to start using the iTunes software on their computers, to be interested in using an iPod itself. And then as they got the music rights, ironed out globally, they started selling music and making a lot of money. And it's crazy to think about it, but that iTunes store is still the backbone of the technology that is used for the App Store today, that works not only on your iPhone, your iPad, but your Mac now as well. It's crazy how the world works.